Well, good evening, everybody. This is Gill Phelan down at Grandview Estates in Costa Rica. I wanted to thank you for joining us tonight, and just give people are still signing in here, so we'll give them a couple more minutes to get started. Basically, what I'd like to do over the next few months is to start at the beginning. And a lot of folks are just beginning to think about Costa Rica, and I wanted to start you out and give you maybe a little broad overview, some of the reasons why I picked it and why other folks are picking it too. I'd like to have a little bit of interaction if we can. Could somebody just write into me and let me know that you can hear me and everything looks good, that you can see the screen? Because I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree. Sometimes I forget to turn my microphone on or don't start the program correctly. So if you can just raise your hand or just say yes, everything looks good, type that in, I'd appreciate it. As you see here on the front page, I wrote a book recently. The reason I did this, it's amazing to me that the misinformation that's still out there in regards especially to the Caribbean of Costa Rica. I mean, some people still think Costa Rica is an island, right? So there's a lot of folks in a learning curve for sure, especially with the political situation has spurred people on to think a little bit differently and to think outside of the box as well. And listen, I did the Caribbean of Costa Rica was really outside the box when I got here 10 years ago. There's been so much growth and change, the roads and just on that we really put a lot of trust in good things were going to be happening on the Caribbean when we started our project. And I'm very happy to say that great things have been happening. So again, people are still signing in. If somebody would please let me know, can anybody hear me out there? I can get on my other computer and listen to myself. I seem to be broadcasting. And really, anybody who has any, oh, there's a question here. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that input. Loud and clear. Great. Okay. I don't want to take up your whole evening. I'm going to be doing these webinars on a monthly basis, more or less. I'm going to try to take you from point A to point Z somewhere down the road. And we might diverge and we might split up on subjects sometimes. I'm not quite sure how we're going to run this. Really depends on what people are interested in. So here's another. I'm running this by myself this evening. Usually my son's helping me, so I want to make sure I answer any questions. Anyway, I'm going to try to keep the program to about 35 to 40 minutes at the most. That is, unless you have anything that you really need to talk about, I'm here for you. And please, any questions, any concerns, anything you like, just write me a question. Okay, I can see Dave has a unanswered question. And if I was smart enough, I could actually know what the question is. I've only done about 24 of these, folks, so it's going to take me a while to figure it out. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, so on to the next slide. The Caribbean of Costa Rica was written specifically to dispel a lot of rumors that people have about the Caribbean of Costa Rica. But in a general sense, I kind of want to take you today, just in case you're just starting to think about things. Why should you even choose Costa Rica? What would put Costa Rica on your radar? This is a photo from the project up on one of the higher lots. We get nice expanse out there to the Caribbean, and Of course, we've got horses running around and all kinds of cool stuff. So I would have to say what drew me to Costa Rica the most was the weather, the lifestyle, and just, you know, folks, if you haven't been here, I'm not sure how many of you guys have been here, but it's almost something that you're going to feel immediately, or you may not. It's not something that nobody of the projects that I know of the real projects and the guys who've been here doing it for a long time, nobody sells anything really. We present what we have, and really it's going to be a fit or it's not. That's basically it. And that's something you can almost feel when you get off the airplane. On the other hand, there's been instances where folks will come down for our seminar tours or whatever, and I can almost tell immediately upon meeting them that it's not going to be a good weekend. They're complaining that the people don't speak English and on, and it's like, oh my. You know, from my experience here, like I said, I've been here since 2002 and came before any of this boom was even thought of, especially on the Pacific side. I came here for my own personal reasons. You know, I raised my family. I wanted to be a dive instructor down here, and I just checked the place out because this is where I wanted to be. It had nothing to do with the economy or anything. It was just my time. You know, anybody out there who's been through raising kids and they leave the nest, gosh, you go, you know, hey, it's time for me now. It's a little bit of a shock too, right? I mean, I got divorced, and that's not an unusual thing either. Once that happens, so here I ended up in Costa Rica in 2002 before the boom, and for me, folks, my first weekend, it was really that plain and simple. I says, you know, I can do this. I took a highlights tour around the San Jose area, which included going to let's see, we went to the volcano, we went to a coffee plantation, we went to the river and looked at monkeys, we went to a site of indigenous Indians. There was some artifacts there. It was like a 14-hour day that showed you all around the country, and I just fell in love with the place, and I think that you're going to find the same thing. You're either going to like it or you're not. Now, for those of you who are looking for a healthier lifestyle, we can really have that going on, especially here at Grandview Estates. Our lots are all pretty big, so you can grow all the fruits. And this is just a sampling of what we grow here and what we can buy very easily. So eating healthily is another real draw for a lot of folks. You know, you have fruits and vegetables year-round. There's no such thing as needing to can anything. You really don't need a big freezer because stuff is just grown locally within 100 miles of us. You know, that's a big thing in the States where people talk about getting your produce from within 100 miles of your house. Of course, in the middle of Minnesota right now, that could be a little difficult getting some fresh tomatoes, right? So you can't even do it when you want to sometimes. But here, that's just the way life is. I mean, you go up and down the road here, there's little fruit stands and vegetable stands everywhere. You know, folks who have extra lemons on their tree, you know, one of the family members will set up a little cart by the road, and, you know, you can buy some fresh vegetables or fruits locally every day of the year. So that's a pretty neat thing. That's another draw for a lot of people. You know, folks are the average age for people that I meet here at Grandview that are interested in moving here are usually in their 50s or older. We have some youngsters here, you know, 40 or so, but the majority of people are really at a stage of life where they're looking for a less stress lifestyle, and they've learned that it's time to start eating and exercising better. So I think that's another draw that makes Costa Rica very easy to choose as a place to relocate, even if it's only for part of the year, a few months, vacation home or whatever. That's what I think attracts most people. And I'm an outdoor guy for sure. Everywhere I've ever lived, you know, my last place in Pennsylvania, I had 40 acres out in the middle of a state forest, and that's always been my choice. So here at Grandview Estates, especially because of the weather and the year-round warm temperatures, obviously the wildlife and such, the monkeys and toucans and macaws are all over the place most of the year. So you'll see macaws running around or flying around the project. They don't really run too much. Macaws, and here's our waterfall, which is over in phase 4, and everybody can go over there whenever they like and swim or have lunch. There's a little table down by there. So I think nature and enjoying the outdoors is one of the most important aspects of why people are really enamored with Costa Rica, because I've done a little bit of traveling these last few years, and it's quite rare. As a matter of fact, I can't think of any place that I've been that I would consider as lush and green and vibrant as Costa Rica. I've been to some really cool places. We just went out to Utah, out to Zion National Park, and I mean, that's an unbelievably incredible place, but it's a whole different situation, right? It's certainly not like Costa Rica. So I find most of the folks who relocate here love being outdoors all year and love nature. And everywhere you go in the country, there's some cool stuff to see. I mean, I was just over the Pacific side last week, and just to drive across the country is you go through so many different eco zones and different places that the trip itself here is actually part of your fun. I know sometimes when I go to places in the States, you're on this endless highway. Gosh, I drove from Sarasota to New Orleans. That was the most boring drive I've ever had in my life. Just scrubby sand pines for 10 hours. Right? We don't have that problem here. Every corner you turn, there's something different. This volcano we're looking at is about 35 miles from us, plenty far away where it's not an issue. The smoke, as you can see, how the smoke from that is blowing, that's in the San Jose direction. And because we're on the Caribbean, the winds are always blowing from the Caribbean inland. So we don't have to worry about smoke. Nothing's going to happen that's going to affect us, with the exception of being able to look at this cool volcano right out of our backyard. I would say that a lot of folks find that quite interesting as well. Check this next slide out. There's a little bit of a delay sometimes when I click. There he is. This guy was right in my backyard, and he's a pretty common visitor. We also have a three-toed sloth, or this is a three-toed. The two-toed sloth is not near as pretty, and it's not near as friendly either. But these guys are just incredible. He was going across the road. We picked him up on a stick just in case. And you know, it was funny. We put him on a fence post, and he was clinging on a fence post, and my son went over to him and started just scratching his belly. And he just leaned back and let us scratch his belly and was just the happiest guy. So this is the kind of stuff you see between the macaws and the toucans and these guys. You know, we've got armadillos and pizotes, which is kind of like a raccoon. Costa Rica has, I believe, well over 650 species of birds just in this little tiny country. So if you're a birder, that's a fantastic thing to do. You'll be busy for a long time trying to cross off every bird that you'll see here in Costa Rica. So the wildlife and nature. I had a lady ask the other day, they're coming down next weekend, and she asked about seeing a animal preserves or zoos or something. You know, that's not something that is real popular here. We have a few places that do some rescue, so you'll be able to see some of these critters that were injured and they're being treated and hopefully go back to the wild. And if not, they'll keep them there. But we have enough wildlife everywhere we go that you don't have to go to a zoo to enjoy it. I think that's my first impression when I came to the country, and I find a lot of folks feel the same way, is they're immediately drawn to the beauty and the nature. What's something that I can't begin to express to you tonight, because if you haven't lived here, you can't feel what it is. But there's a difference living here in this country, and especially if you talk about Panama, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, there's a difference here that is very impressive. And that's because there's not been an army since 1948. They constitutionally banned the army way back when. And the last few generations that have grown up here don't have this military mentality. This picture here was from a fort in San Jose that, before then, yeah, there was civil wars and, a lot of the stuff that Latin America was kind of known for. But the cool thing was they got together, and the two factions had a couple of very intelligent leaders, and they said, what are we doing? They understood they both loved the country and they were fighting for their country, and they realized they're just killing each other and wasting their precious resources. So they banned the army, and they decided we're going to put this money that we're not spending on the military into schools, education, and health care. So for the last 60 years, this country has grown in that direction, that the society here is very important, and they realized for this little third world country way back when that peace was a pretty good thing. So it's something that you can't really understand until you're here and you feel the kind of people that are here. There's a friend, listen, I was just back in the States for a month. I was doing some business up there because there's so much business going on. It helps me if I go up there and do presentations and seminars. But I can tell you, there's just a different feel. I came back home and I just immediately felt the difference again. The people are happier. The minute I got into the airport and the immigration officer was talking to me, he had just had the biggest, brightest smile on his face, and we're joking around. And folks, I have to tell you the honest truth, okay? I was there in the States for a full month, and I did quite a bit of traveling, and it struck me at that moment that I really didn't see anybody with a God-honest, big, bright, beaming smile in that whole time. Yeah, some people were pleasant to me and things like that, but boy, I can tell you, it really struck home when I got here, and that's one of the differences that I love about living in Costa Rica, is the people and the culture. And I don't think, guys like me would be happy in a gringo enclave. I mean, there's some places in Escazú that's right outside of San Jose. Not to put it down by any means, but it's just not a place that draws my interest, because these are folks who are just interested in saving money and having a good climate, not so much interested in having friends that are Costa Rican and being part of this culture. So, like I said, I go back and forth to the States. It's certainly not like I hate the United States, and that's one thing I like to caution people against. One of the differences I've seen over the years that I've been doing this down here is that folks used to be more drawn to Costa Rica. They came down here because they heard something good, it looked cool, they're going to go rafting, they're going to go to a jungle safari, whatever. And they were drawn here, and they were interested in the adventure. Unfortunately, over the last couple of years, I've seen people looking at Costa Rica more as an escape hatch. And, I just haven't found that fulfills people's needs. They're leaving the country as opposed to coming to this country, if that makes any sense. And so just be careful of that, to understand this is a different culture. It's not going to be everything exactly the same, but less money. No, there's going to be some differences here in Costa Rica that you may find frustrating for a while. The Mañana complex, believe me, nobody's on time. And one of the biggest changes that I've had personally is I was definitely an on-time sort of guy. If I wasn't 5 minutes early, I was late. If I thought I was going to be anywhere near late, I'd drive down the highway, 90 miles an hour because I didn't want to be that 1 minute late. Here it doesn't matter, folks. And there's a good reason for it. Not only that it's a kind of a Latin American thing, but my wife is Costa Rican, and she grew up here using buses, and there's a lot of folks that still do use buses. And you may have 2 or 3 buses before you can get to your destination, right? And look, if each one of those is late for 5 minutes, or gosh, one doesn't show up, you may be a half hour, 45 minutes late. Now, that's not to say that people working serious jobs don't try to make up for that fact, but in general, if somebody's 15 or 20 minutes late, you won't even take notice of it after a while. And listen, that's one of those stress reductors, I can tell you. Why? Because not only you're not mad at somebody because you're a couple of minutes late, but you know what? If you're late, you don't have to drive 90 miles an hour. You know that other person's not going to be mad at you either. So it's some of those things that you have to understand are different, but on the back side of it, there can be some benefits to it. So like I said, I want to keep everybody here all night. I want to keep these short and to the point. So in general, the nature, the beauty, the weather is all something that draws you in very quickly. Now for some more practical stuff is that, folks, you're talking about Europe and the United States, there's been some issues with the economy and with jobs. We don't have that problem here. I'm not going to read all this stuff to you. Actually, I'm going to send a copy of this to everybody so you can review this in your own time and read this. But all I can tell you is when I come back here, now, I will say that, yes, the United States is looking healthier. I see more activity. I don't see skeletal structures of buildings as much as I did a few years ago. So I have to say, in general, I see a resurgence for sure, but it doesn't compare with what's happening here. I mean, you go around the San Jose area, especially, they got free trade zones that encourage people to do business here. And I mean, it's incredible what's happened in the last few years. You've got HP, IBM, of course, Intel is here. It's the largest employer, and well over 90% of their integrated circuits that they send throughout the world are designed and manufactured right here in Costa Rica. So the economy's healthy and booming. So it's not like you're coming here to sit in your hammock and wonder what to do. There's activities, there's growth, and there's also I think there's a lot of business opportunities for folks who aren't really looking towards retirement per se, but maybe they're looking for a change. I mean, most of us for sure have, after 20 years of doing something, you look for something else. Folks, there's a great place to look right here. If you're business oriented and if you're entrepreneurial, we have lots and lots of opportunities. Here's another thing I want to stress to everybody. When you're thinking about Costa Rica, don't think about coming here to work. Number one, the salaries are pitiful compared to what you're making. That's why a lot of these big companies love being here. They get these very well-educated people for very reasonable salaries. And, you're talking an engineer that might be making 80 or 90, 100,000 in the States might be doing the same thing here for 40 or 45, and they're perfectly happy. Their lifestyle is great, and the company's happy as well. So don't think about coming down to be an employee. If you want to do a business, really start your own company. And this is something that you and I could personally talk about, because I've got so many great thoughts of what would work, especially on the Caribbean, but we don't have time to do it all. We're a small company. It's just a few of us. We're busy doing what we do here at Grandview, and there's some other opportunities that we would certainly love to advise people on, and We even have some opportunities here at Grandview with our equestrian center and things like that. So there's plenty of growth and plenty of opportunity. One of the biggest projects that's going on in the area right now is the restructuring in the port of Moin. There's your slide. This is a rough sketch of what they're going to do. It's a container port right now where 80 to 90% of our imports and exports come in and out of Moin, but it's not big enough. The post-Panama ships that can't get through the Panama Canal need a place to offload to smaller ships that go through the canal. They're talking about a railroad maybe going across Costa Rica to compete with the Panama Canal, because there's a lot of money to be made there. So this is only about 20 miles, 25 miles from our project. So there's literally tens of thousands of new jobs that are being created within just a few miles of Grandview. And we've also got a brand new hydroelectric project. We've got a refinery that's being restructured. There's about $3 billion worth of growth within a 25-mile radius of our place. So you got all these factors starting to build up, folks, and when you get down here, this is what's going to really impress you once you put it all together in one package. Now, a practical aspect, and one thing we've always been very mindful of, is that we were geared towards the average folks. You know, there was a great boom for a while here, $1 million homes, etc., which is fine. But right out of the gate, we knew that we wanted to do something just a little bit different. And one reason we knew we could do that was because here on the Caribbean, not only was land cheaper, but to this day, the cost of living is cheaper than many, many parts of the country that I go to. So $1,500 a month, you can do pretty well every month. And there's just a quick breakdown of basically, this is my expenses per month. Now, of course, as a business, that's a different thing. But if you were just sitting down here and you had a monthly income of Social Security or something like that, here on the Caribbean side, this would be a realistic budget for your month. Now, of course, you know, it can go up or down. We don't drink and things like that, so thank God I saved some money there. But and dining out and those things, good Lord. I was complaining lately because the local restaurant, you know, we'd get a nice fillet of fish and things like that for lunch, and I got angry because it was up to $6, you know. And then after my month in the States, I said, "Wow, I think you spend $6 on a bag of fries or something, right?" So dining out here is cheap. Look at the health insurance, folks. My wife and I pay $59 a month for 100% coverage in our health insurance. Actually, that just went up. It was only $49. Actually, I need to make a note to myself on that. I have to own that raise. So take a look at that when I send that out to you, and you'll get a better idea what the cost of living is. Everything that we discussed to this point, folks, kind of rolls into what makes a good investment. You've got the healthy economy, you've got the great weather, you've got nature at its finest, you've got reasonable land prices. You know, here at Grandview, you can still build kind of an open-aired structure, you know, with screens and everything, but an open-aired structure is really what works well here. You can do that for $65 a square foot for the building and buy a huge lot. Both of those together, really you can do that for about $150,000, $175,000. You have a beautiful custom 1,400 square foot home in a gated community on a 1 1/4 acre lot with a stream. And what I like is, gosh, all my life I've always tried to understand that what I'm buying sometimes is best if it's a good investment. that you can sell it someday. Now, I understand that's not the most important thing at all times. Sometimes you want what you want, doesn't matter what it costs, that's one thing. But especially in real estate investing and things like this, especially if you have just a desire to diversify, you want a retirement location, maybe you want a vacation home, place that you can rent out in between. That's all stuff to look at in this mixture here. And I think we've got a lot of good stuff going on in that area. Here's a map of Phase 4 at Grandview Estates. We've sold out through Phases 1 through 3. And we needed to start Phase 4 much, much quicker than we thought we were going to. We've got about 7 of these lots sold already. And as you can see, we've got the road in place. The electric should be done very shortly. And this gives you a site plan, and you'll have a copy of this, and it is on our website as well. So we've got about 35 lots left to sell. A lot of folks that I deal with really do their homework. You know, they do a lot of studying on the internet. One of the most important numbers that you can look at, folks, is price per square meter. I know sometimes it doesn't make sense, but it's really the way things are measured here for land. So keep that in mind, that many places that you look at, listen, here's something to pay attention to. Watch out for people who sell you a lot, say, hey, we've got a lot for $40,000. We got a lot for $50,000. How big is it, right? That makes a difference. If it's a quarter-acre lot for $50,000, that's not that great of a deal. A lot of times it translates to about $45 a square meter. Here at Grandview, even though we've had to raise prices since we've opened 5 years ago, obviously, because everything was more expensive, we're still keeping our pricing to about $16 a square foot. So I encourage people, look around. When you come down here, don't be afraid of taking some time. Go to the Pacific side, go to the Central Valley, come to the Caribbean. You know, do yourself a favor, because when you make that decision, you don't want to make sure that you're not second-guessing yourself, wondering what you may have missed somewhere else. Okay? So, whoops. I made a mistake with my... Okay. Another thing to keep in mind, we do some in-house financing, and as far as I know, there's nobody in this country that beats what we do as far as in-house financing. There's no credit checks, there's nothing. If you just meet the down payment requirements, and you can see, I've even got a 2-year interest-free program with a 35% deposit. And as you can see, there's 50%, 40, and 30. We've tried to make this as easy as we can. Whether you're an investor, whether you want to move here, whether it's a combination of both, the truth is, with our square meter pricing and our finance package, if you can't afford to do something here at Grandview Estates, you may not be able to afford to do anything anywhere. It's really that simple. For example, if you look at this finance example, this is for lot 120. It's 1¼ acres with a beautiful stream frontage. 50% down. We'll finance the rest. It's only $322 a month. That's a little over $10 a day. Okay, and that's pretty affordable. And all of them are. We tried to make sure that all packages, no matter what you decide on, are between $300 and $500 a month, something in that vicinity, because we find that's affordable for most people. So that's something you can ask me about as well. We could even personalize that for you. If there's some other sort of financing you need, we're debt-free here, folks. We have no loans, no liens, no lawsuits. And because we're not desperate for money to make our loan payments, we can be very generous with you as well. One of the best ways to take a look down here is with our seminar investment tour. Basically, we're going to take you from Friday morning till Sunday afternoon, And you'll be with us the whole time. You're going to learn the Caribbean side of Costa Rica. You're going to learn about what we know, the ins and outs of bringing pets, of starting a business. Whatever we've done, we're going to share with you. And a great way to get one of these free weekends is to put a deposit on a lot. It's 10% down, totally refundable. If you're serious enough to do that, I'll pick you up. We'll give you the free weekend tour. And if you don't like things, by the end of the weekend, you get all your money back. So it's really a risk-free way to get down here. You got to get your boots on the ground. It's wonderful with the internet today to get a lot of good, solid information. But, it's going to gel when you put your feet on the earth here. Okay? That's when it's going to come together, or not. And I would have to say, if you're wondering, so it's funny, right? So often you're disappointed in things. You build something up in your head and you go and it's just not quite what you had in your mind's eye. Glad to say that most often people tell me that when they get here, it was better than what they thought it was going to be. So 80 to 90% of the people who come here just think it's wonderful. So take the risk. If you just want to do the seminar investment tour and pay for that, it's $599. It's a personalized tour for the weekend. You and your wife or yourself, whatever. And by the time you leave, you're going to know if it's for you or not. Okay, I'm going to try to wrap this up here in a couple minutes, folks. A lot of folks are international living members. If you are, there's a offshoot of that run by Ronan McBann called Real Estate Trend Alert. Well, because of all our very intensive work together over the years, I offer RETA members a 20% discount on all lot pricing here, and that's the best discount we give. So I don't give a price list on this because it varies in what's sold and everything else, so I like to give you a current price list. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll give you a current price list and you can take 20% off of that if you're a RETA member. And don't forget, folks are thinking about investing. Maybe you might want to move, maybe you won't. One of the best things to do that I suggest is just don't get yourself paralyzed with the thinking, how am I going to move? What do I got to sell? How am I going to move my stuff? That's the future. Everything we do is one step at a time, right? So it's a great way to diversify as an investment today. And if you decide a couple years later that, no, you'd rather move to Thailand or whatever, hey, at least you're going to be in a growing market. We've sold made people 75% on a resale just in a couple years. My gut feeling, folks, is really let what's happening in this area happen. There's the 2-lane roads going to 4 lanes. All these new jobs are coming in. We don't buy real estate because it's super liquid, right? Give it a little bit of a chance, 3 to 5 years, and I promise you're going to be doing way better than the 1 or 2% you're getting in a CD in the States, okay? I can guarantee you that. I'll be sending you a link as well in the follow-up to my new book. You can order that on Amazon. And I try to cover, Costa Rica is kind of a small country, so it's tough just to stick to the Caribbean because if you're like me, you're going to be going back and forth and all over the place anyway. So I try to give you a broad view of Costa Rica and then zoom into the Caribbean and give you the specifics there. Here's my contact info, Grandview Estates. Here's my email and phone numbers and my Skype name. So I want to thank everybody for joining. If you have any questions, I'll try to figure out how to read them here. I'm having a little difficulty with that. And if I can't answer your question this evening, rest assured I will be doing a follow-up, and you can just shoot me a quick email and I'll answer anything you like. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I hope I answered some questions that you may have had. The one thing I may be the I don't want to say the best at, but what I find is I live here full-time. I've been here for 10 years. I've married a Costa Rican. I have a Costa Rican family here. Everything I tell you is from my first-hand experience. I'm not living in Florida or somewhere in the States trying to tell you what a wonderful place Costa Rica is. I live here full-time. I've put my heart and soul in the project, and believe me, we don't have to sell hard to anybody. You come down and enjoy yourself for a weekend, and you'll see exactly what I've been telling you about this evening. So take care, and God bless, and let me know if there's anything else I can do for you. Good night.